Hiya, I'm Jasper, and welcome to your video review for The Santa Claus 3. It's a movie starring the same people from last time, and then a guy, Martin Short maybe, who plays Nick Frost. So, uh, yeah. Whew. Okay, so to recap the first one and the second one, I really liked the first one. It was excellent, timeless Christmas classic. The second one, not quite as good. It was okay. Like, I can see why it wasn't as great. This one, I can see why after this they didn't make another Santa Claus movie for over a decade. Yeah, like a decade and a half almost. Because this movie sucked. Thumbs down. So I was trying to figure out what my issue was with this, because maybe it's because I, didn't watch the Santa Claus 3 when I was younger, and this is my first time watching it, and I'm not the age bracket that it was intended for. So I was trying to figure out, like, is it just that I have nostalgia for those two, or at least definitely the first one, and maybe a little bit of the second one, or what? Or is this movie just objectively bad? And I think this movie is just objectively bad. And here's why. Because in the first one, and not as much in the second one, but especially the first one, the elves are just shown as like, hey, like obviously the actors are kids, but they are playing people that are hundreds of years old. Like, so the elves are smart. They've been around. They have relationships and, adult conversations and instances, and just like how they view the world is from a very old soul perspective, because they've been around and done around, and they are ancient, if you will. And also they're badass because they have like, the elf squad for like rescue and all that jazz. And the second one, they kind of tone that down. And in this one, they're just dumb. Like, especially the second in command guy who just reveals everything to Jack Frost. Like, how is he that high ranking and that stupid? And just like the elves in general just felt like they were kids. It felt like the elves were kids in this, which is the opposite of especially how they started. So I didn't like how that played, and I don't think it was good for the movie. The scale, I felt like in the first one, I think maybe my nostalgia made it feel like a larger set, or just the fact that he was just there a little bit. But in this one, it's supposed to be all of the North Pole that you're seeing, all these different like factory workshop things, and it just felt a little too confined. And no, I'm not just talking about the delivery room, which also the delivery room is like, haha, get the joke because they're short. But that implies that those elves are also having baby elves, which again leads to the fact that they were old and adulty in the first one, and then now this one, like, you wouldn't expect those elves to be having kids. And then also, like, if you know that there's a Mrs. Claus, like, you would have built a taller, like, a bigger room for her, knowing ahead of time. Especially because your whole job is like build things. I think you could build a taller thing. But yeah, just the scale of the sets and how big they were, how many there were, just the spacing in between them, the outdoor settings, if you will. I don't think that played very well. And then also, the CGI I think got worse from the first one. I think that it got worse in this one. I don't know if it was just budget cuts or if they just were more ambitious and then just it didn't connect in time, but I don't think that went as well. And then just the storyline. Aside from the elves being dumber, like, just Jack Frost is just an annoying asshole, and for no real good reason. And it was just, none of the jokes felt like they landed. The pacing was bad, and the music was, I guess, forgettable. And the whole plot line of Jack Frost wanting to be Santa, and then he turns it into this resort. Like, it's supposed to be this Disneyland style resort, right? But like, Disney style resort is huge, and so when you're trying to be like, look, it's this resort that people go to, and then it's just this little tiny room, like this one room is where all the things are happening. Like, I get that you're trying to make as many jokes in like a single pass with the camera as possible, but it felt much too small to be a resort that you would have this worldwide industry of people coming to you. And then just how Jack Frost looked was not the best. Just from when he was Santa to when he was just regular Jack Frost. I don't think it worked. So just how they brought everything together, none of that at all connected for me. I just found this movie just generally disappointing. I was tempted to turn it off a couple times just because of how disappointed I was in the quality of it. I really only kept watching because I planned to watch the Santa Clauses. So, yeah, I would say that you can definitely skip this movie. And I guess I don't want to say spoiler alert for the Santa Clauses, but I have watched the Santa Clauses after I watched this movie, and I will say that, in my opinion, you don't need to watch this movie to watch the Santa Clauses. Sort of like how with some of the Terminator movies you can skip a certain one or a certain couple because they're just pretending that those don't exist in the timeline. They don't quite go that far with the Santa Clauses, but nothing significant from this story majorly impacts the Santa Clauses. So I would say to skip this one to just not taint your memory of the Santa Claus universe. Because the first one was great, second one was okay, but yeah, skip this one. Thumbs down, and yeah. But check out my review for the Santa Clauses, which I'll link below as soon as I, make it. So yeah, that's really all I have for this one. Let me know if maybe I'm off. Did you watch all three of them at the same time in your life? So maybe all three of them turned out better for you, or do you also think that this movie is worse than the others by a long shot? Let me know if I'm just totally crazy, if I'm just totally off. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. That's all I have for this one. Thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you at the next one. Bye.